All right. Scott, good news. Got a package from our buddies at NVS last week. Look what they are now manufacturing, the S-Wings.
I thought that was like under wraps.
Well, it's public on their website. You got the same?
Well, look at me, bro. Woo.
S-Wing buddies. Pretty freaky.
Yeah. I'm very excited to try them out. My friend from France who designed the S-Wings, man, he was all... I surfed with him actually after the Boardroom show last year at Cardiff. He was ripping around on his S-Wings, and he's a great guy with great energy. And what's it say on there?
I don't know. I'm just holding it up for listeners to see. So say more about what is the theory behind this wacky design?
Well, I wish I could, elaborate with some sort of expertise on it, but I sense that, look, there's a ton of bass, and then I don't know. You tell me. I just want to try it. I don't want to butcher what it's all about, but it's supposed to be loosey goosey and extra drive, and extra hold. You tell me, boss.
I'm not the boss, but just to describe it, I'll say it basically looks like a standard, I don't know, thruster fin that rather than finishing at the top of the curve where it would normally finish, it extends out and then up and then into a nub, basically. So it's kind of, the undulation is also odd because it's not like a direct line straight out. The fact that it then curves up, I don't even know what to describe the shape as, other than it's kind of a subtle shape of an S, basically. But I don't know what the objective is. All that I know, and all that I need to know, is that I've seen Tom Curran riding them. And that's enough for me.
That's perfect. It's good enough for Tom. Tom is the, I think as Sterling Spencer put it, he said, Tom is like the original core lord.
Yeah.
Which is pretty true.
I don't know. The OG, there's OGs that were way before Tom.
Well, I think Phil Edwards. I mean, there, like now you're going down a rabbit hole. Who's the original core lord? I mean, probably like Mickey Dora's dad, Gard Chapin, or somebody like that.
Maybe
I heard he was kind of a nightmare. I heard.
Maybe Tom Blake.
Maybe.
So back to design. I just pulled up NVS's website so that you and I don't have to pretend to be the experts. The original design behind S-Wings was designed by Philippe Gray Lopez and Zabi Lafitte. And the unique and innovative design
Jabi.
What is it?
I'm sorry, I think it's Jabi.
Xabi.
Jabi.
Lafitte.
That's he rips. We had fun surfing together, Jabi and I. He's been into the boardroom a couple of times, but I interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. The unique and innovative design was patented in 2015 with various sizes, models, and flex patterns. The mid-keel 470 purple is our first collaboration with S-Wings. Purple G10, being the stiffest flex pattern, is ideal for heavier, like 175-pound plus surfers, or for faster, more powerful waves. The trailing, they're referring to it as a trailing arm, this extension off the tip of the fin. It's 4.7 inches and is ideal for mid-length twins or retro fishes. The S-Wings provide drive, stability, and maneuverability with its 4.7-inch trailing arm.
Well, look, we're excited to give the new S-Wings by NVS and our friend Jabi a chance, a go. Let's go.
Well, the only reason I haven't tried them in the past is obviously I get all of my fins actually from NVS, and I just never saw these available elsewhere. I mean, I know I could probably have searched and found them directly on their website or something like that.
Yeah.
But the fact that NVS is now making them available makes it super simple and easy to grab. So you can do that at surfnvs.com. Of course, make sure you also follow them at Naked Viking on Instagram to see all these updates. And you can also grab them at realwatersports.com, who we know and love.
Yeah.
So Real Water Sports for any and all of your water sport needs. Of course, 1,500 surfboard inventory, foil gear, kite gear, board bags, traction, beach towels,
Yeah.
ice chests,
Yeah.
whatever you need, Scott.
They got food there. I don't know if they'll ship the food, but they have a restaurant that's really good.
Almost forgot about the Waterman's Grill.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Time to go back. Go to realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy. Yeah, guy. Yeah, friggin' guy. You know what? It is Thursday. It's April 2nd, David. This is Spit, the Spit Podcast. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass. We're talking all things surf and some other stuff as well. Dan Brown, Origins. Have you seen this book?
No, I mean, I've read some of Dan Brown's books back in the day, but
You got to read this book, Origins. It's really great. I just finished it. I'm very excited about it. And
it's a novel?
It is. It's a fictional novel. It's like a great Dan Brown novel. If you're familiar with Angels and Demons or the Da Vinci Code, he writes in a very sort of page-turner, kind of suspenseful, gripping way. And in some regards, I kind of consider it like Netflix in a book. You know, like it just keeps you like wanting to like watch the next episode. But of course, a way better drill down on history and a lot of times on architecture and science and the tension between a divinity and science. And this continues down that same path. And it's a really fascinating, especially at the end. I found at the end, you know, the last 5 chapters, just, he kind of builds you to that place. And then, you know, there's a big climax at the end there, and it's fascinating. And Origins, Dan Brown, highly recommend it. Incredible book.
So it looks like it's a continuation of the series, the Robert Langdon series, which is the lead character in the other books that you named. This one was actually released in 2017, but follows Dan Brown, the Harvard symbologist, as he races to uncover a groundbreaking scientific discovery by his former student, tech billionaire Edmund Kirsch, who promises to answer humanity's biggest questions about its origins and future.
Yeah, it's a fun read, and it's something that will have you discussing with your friends over a cold drink. It's pretty fascinating.
The thing that I always liked about the books is just the setting in Europe. You know, like doing the walk through the museums and all the...
Have you ever been to Barcelona?
No, I've been to Spain. I have not been. I think I flew into Barcelona, but drove out immediately.
Yeah, so after reading the book, there's this one, there's many, as you know, many locations that Dan puts in these books. One of them is Sagrada Familia, which is, I don't know anything about it. I'm sure the listeners do know a lot about it. You look like you're nodding your head. You've heard of it. It's just this
Gaudi's church?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I didn't know anything about Gaudi. Like, I'm completely ignorant to a lot of this stuff, which is probably why I was so interested in it. But I'm looking forward, bucket list, visiting Sagrada Familia, this incredible church, which I found out just finally finished. It was like 100 years in the making, and it just finished. Finished it.
That's what I was going to say too, is it took forever to build, like a couple hundred years to build, obviously not in Gaudi's lifetime. Or started in his lifetime, finished not in his lifetime.
And Dan Brown does a great job of attaching the architecture and the architect, the builder, with nature and religion, and how those two things, how the tension is there. It's really kind of cool.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out. We were talking about the S-Wings by NVS a few moments ago. I mentioned last week that I'm getting a Rusty, and I said the fin setup is a Bonzer. What I meant to say was Twinzer.
Oh.
As soon as we got off air, I'm like, I think I said Bonzer. And I went back and looked at the footage, and I'm like, why did I say Bonzer? Twinzer is what I meant.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to pick up my new Rusty Twinzer, and I'm super excited about it. The waves here it's just been really, really bad. Like not even, I can't even foil it. It's so bad, you know, like it's just kind of like classic, no south swell, springtime, onshores, 1 foot of 11-second interval, just really weak, and it just hasn't been good for surfing. And it's barely good for longboarding, you know, like it's just not rideable right now, but I'm bringing it to Nicaragua. And are we bringing the S-wing fins to Nicaragua to throw in our Rusties?
If you have a twin fin setup for your Rusty, absolutely.
Yeah. I think so.
Okay,
Let's
cool.
get it going.
There you go. Then we'll have feedback on the S-Wings as well. Another follow-up for you. I teased the idea that a special guest would be joining me in Chicama because you can't make it, so they're going to take your spot. I'm ready to reveal who that special guest is.
Can I guess?
You can guess, and I'll give you hints if you want.
Matt Warshaw.
Nope, not Matt Warshaw.
Give me a hint.
He is a content creator on YouTube and Instagram, and he often wears a wetsuit and surfs long lefts.
Is it the Kiwi guy?
It is.
Oh, cool.
Luke Cederman from Raglan Surf Report is going to be joining us on our listener trip to Chicama, Peru in August.
Oh, well, he's a way bigger draw than I am. I would want to go hang out with that guy. There's a lot of pressure on him to be funny, though, I got to say.
He's naturally funny. I don't think there's any pressure at all. It's just his constant state of being. I spent a weekend with him at the Florida Surf Film Festival a few months back, maybe 6 months ago. And so I just had a blast with him there. And when this spot became available, you're not coming due to scheduling conflict, for the record, for listeners. So when you weren't available to come on this year, I was like, dude, who else can we bring? And reached out to him. He's like, dude, I would love to come. And it's literally 4 flights to get from New Zealand to Peru. So it's a ton of travel, and I wasn't sure he'd be keen. But he is. And, you know, like I said, he surfs one of the great lefts in the world. And so this is an opportunity to get another great left around the planet. So
good for him. That's exciting. And good for the listeners to get to spend time with him. Like I said, I'm jealous. I would love to go hang out with you guys. And I talked to Wade. I think Wade will probably be there.
Sweet.
And yeah, so good stuff with our friends at Waterways providing for these Spit listener trips. They're just a ton of fun.
And what a bonus added value for listeners. I mean, for listeners who already signed up, this is amazing for them. And for anybody who wants to get in on the trip, this trip just, I think, got a lot more funny. And and you get to see, I mean, look, Luke was a professional surfer, and he still surfs at an incredibly high level. So just being able to hang in the water with him and watch him surf is going to be a delight too. So get in on that. If you want to come, I should probably look at the dates. I think it's August 22nd. And it's about a 7-day trip. So if you want to come, let me just confirm those dates. There is still availability. Yeah, August 22nd to the 29th, 7-night stay.
Good. I wonder if it, and I'm looking right now, I wonder if it coincides with when the event is happening at Raglan at Luke's spot.
I don't know. I'm sure Luke would have considered that.
Let's see here. I'm taking a quick peek.
I'm looking
schedule for the championship tour. It is in Raglan.
No, the Raglan event is May 15th through the 25th.
Okay, thank you.
So not at all.
Okay, fair enough. Well,
all right. Well, speaking of WSL though, Bells is starting literally in a few hours. Starting today, it looks like.
Yeah. Well, couple things. I could try to stump you with a who said that. To start with, if you're interested.
You don't have to try very hard, but yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this is the portion of the show where I quote a famous surfer, and then I give 4 potential answers, and David tries to guess which surfer said this. So, who said that? And I quote, "I agree with what Rabbit said recently. I don't think enough people are exploring the limits of their character, trying to find out what they're all about. You don't have to go to the NSSA, clean cut, Ugg boots and sweats route. And you also don't have to be the hardcore smoking cigarettes rebel route either. I think everybody has to be more themselves. That's it. Just be yourself. Be honest." Who said that, David? Was it A, Mike Parsons, B, Brad Gerlach, C, Pat O'Connell, or D, Chris Burke?
I mean, Chris Burke is such a weird one to throw in there. I'm going to go Chris Burke.
You're wrong.
What a red herring, dude.
I thought you might take the Chris Burke bait, and you did.
Definitely. Okay, second guess, Gerlach.
Yes, it is. It is Gerlach, and of course, well, as you may know, our friend Tom Curran and our friend Brad Gerlach played a musical event here in San Diego to Belly Up to support a cure for a cancer, and Brad was on the rhythm guitar, and so I thought I would throw a Brad Gerlach quote in there. It's a pretty good one.
It is a good one, and I agree with it. I don't remember Rabbit ever saying that, but I think that is Brad nailed it in that be authentic and be yourself. Because so many of the surfers who are following that other example of like clean cut NSSA, like trying to mind your P's and Q's, that's not necessarily their authentic self. Obviously, they're towing a line and trying to follow a certain level of expectation to hit certain goals. But if you are limiting your own creative expression, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And so, especially nowadays with the variety of ways that you can collect a paycheck in surfing, you should actually, you're incentivized to be yourself.
Well, I totally agree. And Brad is certainly himself, and good for him. And it's be yourself, be honest with yourself.
But I also think that he kind of gave this polarized version of two stereotypes of professional surfing that existed. The Mike Parsons clean cut thing, and then the cigarette smoking, hard partying thing. And so I like what Brad's identifying is there's a million options in between. You don't have to be one of those two things.
Yeah, well, you're right. Good stuff. So bells.
So bells, man, I have never been more had a harder time picking my survival pick than I have with this event. Everybody's freaking ripping. It's crazy hard to pick. And so ultimately I start looking at the draw and I go, okay, well, who's got the easiest draw? Who are they stacked up against? You know, who's the most vulnerable? And I'm going to pick the guy who's surfing against the most vulnerable. It's freaking, that doesn't help at all either. So, by the way, by the time we publish this, you may not have time, but if you're interested, join Survival League. It's $25 for the entire season, and the grand prize is $7,000 and 3 Panda surfboards. So, huge return on that $25 investment. All you have to do is make it through, I want to say past round 2, and you make it through to the next event. You don't have to win the event. You don't have to do better than everybody else. You simply have to make it past round 2. So anyways, what I did, Scott, I looked for the vulnerable and I saw Kauli Vost sitting there. And I thought, Kauli Vost, I think of him as surfing big barrels, certainly a great surfer, but I don't necessarily see him as being comfortable out at bells.
That's a ballsy pick. You
Well,
didn't go there, did
no, listen, he's the vulnerable one. And so who he's surfing against is Leonardo Fioravanti. And I go, Leonardo Fioravanti is kind of like a reliable pick. Kauli looks vulnerable. Leonardo looks stable. I'm going Leonardo, right?
Sure.
So I make that pick. And then I look at the draw and I go, you know who Leonardo Fioravanti is going to surf against if he beats Kauli Vost, which I think that he will?
Somebody really good.
Yeah, Felipe Toledo. Felipe Toledo. Because Felipe Toledo surfs against Eli Hanneman, and I figure Felipe's going to wax Eli. So I'm like, okay, so Leo will beat Vost potentially, but can he get through Felipe? No, and then I'll lose in that next round.
Well, you're assuming Felipe gets through his first round heat.
I mean, that's a fair assumption, though. I mean,
it is. No, it is. It is for sure.
But then, so then furthermore,
yeah,
I go, I'm thinking that Kauli looks vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So I go and I click over to Kauli and I look at some stats. Nope, he finished first on the CS. He won the CS this year, and he got second place at both events that ran at Newcastle, which I'm not saying Bells is like Newcastle, but it is, you know, the reason I said he looked vulnerable at Bells is because if the waves aren't good, it's difficult to surf and put together a combination of maneuvers. So is Newcastle. You know what I mean? So the fact that he got second at Newcastle 2 times this season makes me feel like maybe he's not as vulnerable as I thought he was.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at the draw really makes you, it's kind of like, I don't advise it almost. I mean, yeah, you can probably drill down and like, get a better sense of it, but it's almost, when you look at the draw, you're like, man, they all look difficult. Because I just looked at the guy I picked and I was like, oh no.
That's what I'm saying. It's the hardest time I've ever had picking. So who did you pick?
Well, it's not too late to change, but I picked Connor O'Leary.
Dude, I like Connor. It's a good pick.
He's got to beat Rio Wada.
I know that's a tough one. There's
And
no.
then does he have to get through Heat 3 too?
That's the thing that I
round
don't.
3?
That's the thing that I'm not exactly sure about with this year's Survival League, because in the past they had to make it into the round of 32, but they shifted the format this year. So I'm not sure.
It's a weird format, huh?
It is. So if he only has to get, so Rio is also a surfer that can do really well out there.
So it looks like the format, and I know they sent out an email last week on this, and maybe you have it, but it looks like they're going, look, the lower seeds shouldn't go up against the number one seed every time. So we're going to put all the lower seeds against each other and then let them advance. That's what it looks like. These are all lower seeds in this first round.
Okay. If you do have to get past the next heat, you're kind of screwed, because Connor O'Leary draws either Jack Robinson or Sammy Pupo, both who are flaring on their forehand.
I know. Like, maybe I'm just going to change it to Jack Robinson.
But that's not a safe pick either. I mean, honestly, Jack's been shredding, so maybe it is. But again, there's no safe picks. So I actually changed my pick this morning because I got way in my head about it.
Yeah, I'm in my head. Go ahead. Who'd you pick?
Crosby Colapinto.
Okay, what's the vibe there? Oh, he gets to beat Marcus Mignot.
Marco Mignot. I think Marco's surfing great, but look at
Then
Crosby.
he's got to beat Yago.
I know, dude. Or if Yago loses to the round one winner, it's either Liam O'Brien or Mateus Hurdy.
You're going to put Crosby up against Yago, the world champion?
At Bell's. Have you seen Crosby's warm-ups?
Dude, I've been watching all the warm-ups. They've been insane.
Insane. I'm going to pull up some video while we're talking of the warm-ups.
I mean, it's been at Winky, right? The stuff we've been watching.
I've seen both. Winky and Bell's, yeah.
Yeah, Ethan Ewing looks incredible.
Ethan by far looks like the best surfer of the event for me, but I was apprehensive to put him against, George Pitar, and then whoever wins that heat has to surf against this guy, who's the wild card, Dane Henry, who's doing the best. Dane could be a winner of this.
He's incredible. I actually listened to Dave Prodan's interview with Dane yesterday, and very impressed by this young man. And this guy's hyper focused. I mean, they all are. At this level, there's no more like, there used to be guys on tour, like Mikey February, for instance. You're kind of like, okay, he made the tour, but he's not like this. Dane Henry kid was born to win surfing contests. You know what I mean? Like, this is what he's been doing he's not, it's almost like they're not rookies anymore.
Do you know how old he is?
He's like 18 or something.
So there's, I think when you're younger, you're not in your head yet. And like all of that, just like all of that, I don't know what it is, like drive, grit, fervor, like excitement. That's what's leading the charge. Once you lose a couple of heats, then you get in your head, then things kind of can back off a little bit. But I think he's still in that zone where he's unstoppable.
And I really sense that there's a community and a family fellowship around the Rip Curl team, and being an Australian and being with that Rip Curl crew. And it doesn't feel like when I think of Americans on tour, I think, God, they, for whatever reason, and by the way, this is just me being kind of ignorant and naive, but it feels like they're on their own, you know, like you're like a Kolohe, and, he was on his own, and like Jake Marshall, he's like, there's not like a camp. Like, it seems like the Aussies and the Brazilians have a little bit more of like a nationalistic camp around them, like you hear Dane Henry talk, he's like, he's got Mick Fanning, on speed dial anytime he wants, I don't know.
Well, so last week when we spoke, I said, I'm going to pick a regular footed Australian for the event, and I'm not sure which one. This is another guy that we're watching right now, Caleb Robson, who looks great too. But they're all, now here's Ethan. Ethan looks the best out of all of them. The reason I ultimately didn't end up picking one of them is because they're all matched up against each other. And it's like, I can make an argument for Ethan for sure, but then I can make an argument for Dane, and I can make an argument for Liam O'Brien, who put out a crazy good edit last month, you know? So I decided just to stay away from all of it because there is going to be friendly fire and just go with Kraz, because Kraz also looks incredible and different than he's looked in the past.
Yeah, man, looking at this, it is just, I got to make some changes. Is Connor O'Leary going to get through Rio Wada and then Jack Robinson and Samuel Pupo?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Survival ain't for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that much.
No, it isn't.
Anyways,
well,
I'm excited. And here's Gabe. Look at Gabe. We can't forget about Gabe.
Oh my God. He's going to be a machine.
And Gabe, let's not forget, has Adriano de Souza, former world champion, in his corner coaching now. And he's on CIs.
Gabe's like Michael Jordan. Like Gabe's got a vibe around him like he's unstoppable.
He is, but to be honest, I watch his free surf warm-ups and I don't like his surfing.
Does he look a little heavier?
He's stronger.
Slightly heavier. He's stronger.
He's got more muscle mass probably. So I think the combo of him, like he looks more amped up than we've seen him in a long time. And I love that he has Adriano on his team. I think that's a really dynamic duo. But again, watching his surfing, it's got less pizzazz to me than it's much more formulaic and mechanical than an Ethan Ewing or a Dane Henry.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. Like this, I don't know, man. It's just so tough. There's so many. They're all so good, and everything's just leveled out. You know, it doesn't feel like there's as much of a gap between them.
Completely. And as I mentioned about the CS tour at that last event, is everybody performed in their clutch moments. There's like, you're looking at the wild card, or we're looking at Italo now, but when you look at the wild card like Dane Henry or a rookie, you don't see them as being vulnerable against the world champ. You see them as being able to deliver right there. Yeah. So, and not just one or two of them. It's kind of all of them. So it's a much, much more competitive field, I think, than we've seen in the past.
I'm still looking at the bracket here.
Look at Jack Robinson, how much he's looking like Bruce Irons, dude. If I told you this was Bruce, if I made the footage look a little grainy like it was back in the day, you'd be fooled.
Yeah.
The quiet upper body.
Yeah. So, totally agree.
Anyways, it's exciting.
What about on the women's side? Who did you pick?
Caitlin Simmers.
I'm glad you brought her up. I chose Carolyn Marks.
Safe bet, I would think.
So, in the California Gold Surf Auction, we have one of Caity Simmers' surfboards, and it's from her 2024 World Championship year. It's a Chris Borst. It's Caity Simmers' personal. The California Gold Surf Auction. The lots begin closing, David, this Saturday night, April 4th, Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. There's 48 lots on the auction block from the 1930s Pacific Systems Homes board to the 2024 Chris Borst, Caity Simmers' personal board. And Jake Howard did an interview with Caity Simmers. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read a little bit of it, and then I've got a question for you.
Where did the interview get published?
Surfer Magazine, Jake Howard's Surfer Magazine's website. And I quote from the interview. Over the fall and winter months, Oceanside's 20-year-old reluctant hero opted to drop off the radar entirely. Caity Simmers went camping, spending time in the mountains around Yosemite and Lake Tahoe. She traded her thruster for body surfing, longboarding, and what she calls little funky boards. For Simmers, the break hasn't been about progression in the conventional sense. It's been about evolving perspective and experiences. And she says, just distancing myself from everything I had been kind of consumed by, having to be in certain places at certain times. It all adds up. Going somewhere like Yosemite, you're reminded of who you are. And that was pretty healing. Jake goes on to say, the healing process bled directly into Caity Simmer's surfing. She used the away time to explore, in the words of George Greeno, the innermost limits of pure fun. For a minute, she even put the performance shortboard aside for the sake of drawing new lines. And she says, I feel like I've been learning so much about surfboards. It's like a different language. Body surfing, riding longboards, different ways of riding waves. It makes it all more exciting. I think it improves my surfing, or at least it makes me happier. Based on this insight, David, do you like Caity Simmer's chances to win a world title this year more than before I read this to you?
Absolutely, yes. This is a mature move from a young lady that I would not expect her to make until she's lost for 4 or 5 years and needs to reset. So the fact that she's doing it right now is kind of impressive.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, right? Sometimes after a while, these younger surfers they start to feel the pressures of the tour and the pressures of family and the pressures of just growing up into an adult, and it gets too much, and then they have to go into this space. And because she's gone into this space early, it says a lot about her maturity, I think. And I came away from this going, wow, this is good stuff for her, that she understands that she needs to kind of separate the two things, that she's got this over here, a life that's beyond surfing, and she's identifying with it and she's connecting to it already. And that bodes well for her.
100%. And the other thing is, you, me, any normal person could tell you the benefit and value of going to Yosemite. You go there and it is majestic. It's otherworldly. It's like, this is one of the most unique places on the planet. And there's just something, you tap into a different level of spirituality when you're there. And so the fact that we wouldn't think that would apply to these top level athletes is silly, because she's clearly on the planet. So the talent is all there. If she only focuses on improving that talent by surfing more, she's going to make these tiny incremental improvements, just barely, minuscule. Whereas if she taps into some other resource to try to inform her surfing, I think that she'll have a lot more, interesting and diverse skill set that she will develop in her talent for the thing itself. So I think it's super wise. And I think a lot of surfers fall into the trap of just thinking, if I'm surfing more, focused more than my competitors, then that's the path to victory. She's already proven she's at that level. So now let's tap into other things to inspire and inform and diversify.
Yeah, well said. Now, it's almost, Yosemite's almost as if Gaudi was still around, he might create a cathedral based on Yosemite, It
would be a source of inspiration for anybody.
Absolutely. So, did you know that she has a walk-up song? Do you know what a walk-up song is?
I can envision it.
A walk-up song it's the music that plays briefly as an athlete approaches to compete, most commonly in baseball. When a batter walks up to the plate, there's a song that plays for like 10 or 15 or 20 seconds, and everybody hears it and they're like, oh, cool, and they get fired up. Do you have any idea what Caity Simmer's walk-up song is?
No, but I've always admired her musical choices and her edits that she makes for her surf films, and it's very eclectic, so I can't imagine. Ozzy or Black Sabbath? I get it. I think that makes sense for her.
So Caity's, that's called Sweet Leaf from a 1971 Black Sabbath album, which is kind of, that's her jam, man. That's what she's into. So what's your walk-up song, David? I want to know what your walk-up song is.
Paul Simon's Graceland.
That's what's going to get you fired up.
I mean, look, I want that song to be my theme in life. It's not, I mean, I don't know why that was the first thing that came to me. I do love that song, but that would not be my walk-up song.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you think about your walk-up song while you listen to my walk-up song. Do you have any idea what my walk-up song might be? I know it's kind of a big question. But...
It's going to be the Allman Brothers. I know that.
Oh, here we go.
Such a good pick. All right. Well, now Spotify is going to flag our episode.
Is it?
Yeah.
Spotify, they'll flag it?
Yeah, they'll flag it if we're playing licensed music.
Oh, man.
Well, good choice.
Thank you. Can't you hear me knocking the Rolling Stones, by the way, Spotify, if you want to.
So Caitlin Simmers, another interesting thing. I don't know if you have any insight into this, but she's been riding Sharp Eyes.
I don't have any insight into that.
So
what does that mean?
In the warm-up, she's been riding Sharp Eyes, and I don't know if that means that she's just testing them out or if she's actually made a transition. But that was kind of surprising to me because it seemed like a long-term commitment to Borst.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but it seems to me if she's riding boards as in the warm-up, she's riding those boards in the event. It's too late to be tweaking on that. I would, if I was her, in her crew or whatever, I'd be like, look, pick one and stick with it.
I know. I'm surprised to see that too. So we'll see what happens. I have a listener line call for you that's kind of related to this and related to conversations from a previous week. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Kia ora, James here from New Zealand. I was just listening to the Spit podcast number 450. In today's chat, you guys mentioned that, pro surfers should stick to one shaper for their whole career and that this would probably help them performance-wise. Should we apply the same thinking to everyday surfers? Would we all get better if we stuck to one shaper and just stuck with them our whole surfing life? Interested in your thoughts. Bring them on. Thanks.
What say you?
Well, that's a great question. And my initial response is yes. Believe it or not. I think we would all benefit if we stayed with one shaper. Now, I don't think for your whole life, but I think for a portion of your the crucial parts of your surfing development, like say from, I don't know, let's say like 15 to 20. I think if you stay with the same shaper as you're developing as a surfer, as you're growing as a man or a woman, as your body's filling out, I think you would really, really benefit. Now, there's going to be a time, say 20, 21, 22, whatever, when you've learned a lot from that relationship. You've gained tons of insight. You've probably got a friend for life. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to then explore other things based on this wonderful foundation that you've created.
That's an interesting take. I like it. I like the idea of like your formative years of surfing, working with one shaper, but I would also argue you don't need a lot of boards from that shaper. If those are your formative years of surfing, when it was my formative years, I could only afford one surfboard at a time, and I rode that board until it died, basically. So in that 5-year span, if you had 3 boards over the course of that time that you were really learning how to surf on, I think that would be enough. And those 3 boards could be with the same, would ideally be with the same shaper, so that you're done with the first one, you talk to them, you get feedback, and you make a new one. I think that would be the fastest track towards competency. But so I'll set that aside and then tell you my thought listening to that call was, if your goal is to get better at surfing, then sure, maybe take that advice. But that's not my goal. Certainly not at this point. I've accepted I'm not getting better at surfing, full stop. So my goal at this point is new sensations. I just want to feel new things. And so exploration is key. And that's the reason why I get boards from a number of different shapers. I do tend to get boards from the same group of shapers, and then I'll cycle in like one new kind of anomaly here and there. But I absolutely, at this point, almost see no value, or I see a lot less value in working with one shaper for this point in my surfing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, you bring up great points. Look at exploring, like all the fun in life, right? It's just trying new things, and I'm a big fan. And the beauty of sort of what we're both saying is that you can come full circle. You know, like for instance, Rusty. Last time Rusty made me a board was 20 years ago, and now I'm coming back, and I'm super excited. And you know, so coming back to your shaper as a kid, I was thinking, who made me my boards when I was 15 to 20? Do you recall who made you? You did just mention that you were riding one board, but
Dude,
were you buying them off the rack, or
no, I was buying used boards.
oh,
I did not get a custom surfboard until probably like early mid-20s or something. After a decade of surfing, you know.
Yeah.
I was buying used boards. So I've told you this before, but I was actually buying used Ryan Sakels from his dad's shop in Huntington Beach, because Ryan Sakel was like a competitive surfer, and he went through a lot of surfboards that his dad was building for him, and they'd end up on the rack there for $150 or something, $200. So that was kind of my primary source.
yeah. Well, I think what happens too when you explore, and you sort of touched on this, is that there are certain guys that you kind of just go back to because for whatever reason, the rockers or the rails or something about it just fits your style of surfing, and you're just comfortable with it, you know? And I think Rusty is like that with me. I know Christensen is like that with me. And I know Ryan Sakel is like that with me. Like for whatever reason, we jive, you know? So.
Totally. Well, I got a new board from Roger Hinds that you could see right behind me.
Oh yeah.
And when I picked it up, like he told me which model. We had a discussion. He's like, there's a model. It's called the Genesis. That's what I want to make for you. I'm like, sure. I looked at it once on his website. I was like, cool, looks good. And then once I got it and held it and picked it up, I was like, this is an amalgamation of all the other boards that he's made for me in the past. I was like, it's almost the perfect blend of all of it. Yeah. And it's a thruster, but it's got like a flatter rocker profile. It reminds me, like the rocker profile and the width remind me of a fish. And I had my favorite fish ever from him. So I'm like, this kind of reminds me of that. But then other elements of it, I'm like, nope, this kind of reminds me of this other board that I got. And then this one reminds me of that other board. And I'm like, it's kind of the perfect blend of all of it together. He goes, well, and I told him that, and he goes, yeah. He goes, I've been doing this for 50 years. I know what I'm doing, you know? I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, one pair of hands. Roger Hinds, that guy is a board builder on a level par excellence. You know, he's just insanely talented.
So it's a combination of all those things, but it's different. It's like, even though it has elements of all of those, it is different than any of them that I've had in the past. And so I'm like, this could be the one, you know, one size fits all for me.
I'll amend my answer to James from New Zealand. I would say that it would highly benefit a surfer if they just had, let's say, minimum, go through a stage of getting 3 boards built by one guy and just experience the relationship that occurs and the way that he starts to understand you and your ability to surf and what you do and where you ride and all of those things. And I think you'll see a really, you know, a lot of benefit from it.
Absolutely. It's not exactly a who said that, but I've got a trivia question that I'd be curious if you knew the answer to. That'll lead us into our next segment.
Okie dokie.
Who was Dibby Fletcher's tandem partner in the Makaha International Surfing Competition in 1965?
Don Hansen.
You got it right, Scott. Oh. Well done. Surely you must have known Don Hansen.
Don Hansen was a dear friend, a super good guy, one of the greatest guys, just really just sort of like, he's more than a surfing icon and legend to me. He's like an American icon. He's an American legend. Did you know that he's in the like the Paratroopers Hall of Fame or something? Like, yeah. No, he's a Hall of Fame. He jumps out of airplanes and he's a Hall of Famer. And I don't want to misquote it. I think it's the Paratroopers. He was in the I don't know if it was the Army. I think it was the Army. I should know all this. He's told, I've spoken with him at length about it, but it was years ago. But yeah, Don Hansen, sadly, rest in power. Don passed away this week, and just a wonderful human being, and the whole Hansen family. Just our hearts go out to them as the loss of their father. It's been a tough week for them.
Passed away at the age of 88, I believe. So look at this on the cover of Surfer magazine. I want to say this was like 1966 or something.
Yeah. Don
at Haleiwa.
I think it's earlier than that. That feels like 62 or something.
62. I could look it up actually. So a couple of words, and you would know better than I, but I'll just kind of read from what Dick Metz wrote. Actually, before I read from Dick Metz, found an interesting fact on the EOS Encyclopedia of Surfing's website that he grew up, I think it was South Dakota. And prior to moving to San Diego, he made a living as a mink trapper in the early 50s. And Matt Warshaw reports that he was making $600 a week in the mid 50s as a mink trapper. Do you want to guess what that converts to, accounting for inflation in 2026?
10 grand.
7 grand.
Yeah.
He was making the equivalent of 7 grand a week mink trapping, which is incredible to me. He ended up in Santa Cruz in 1958, and he worked with Jack O'Neill and learned how to shape surfboards with him. Then by 61, so 3 years later, he was down in Southern California learning from Hobie and Jacobs, and then he founded Hansen Surfboards in the mid-60s. By 1969, he was grossing $500,000 a year in revenue, which would be the equivalent of $4.5 million a year. And basically what he said was, I knew I could outwork everybody. He goes, I had one advantage over everybody. I'm from a farm and I can work harder than anybody. And I was like, that's badass. I love to hear that. And so Dick Metz, I said I would quote, he said he was one of the sweetest guys I've ever known and one of the smartest. Hobie loved Hansen because he was so straightforward about his plans. He said that he wanted to learn the business from us and open his own shop down south. Hobie respected that, and that's exactly what Don Hansen did. Now this is from the Encyclopedia of Surfing, before he opened Hansen's, he made a detour to Hawaii where he famously landed on the cover of Surfer magazine in 1962, which is, I think, what you said. Upon returning to California, he opened Hansen Surfboards in Cardiff, and the business boomed. The farm boy, mink trapper, boxer, and track star arrived in North County, San Diego, loaded with ambition. And by 1965, he was one of the 10 legendary shapers featured on the cover of Surfing magazine. His team was stacked. Mike Doyle, Rusty Miller, Margot Godfrey, and Linda Benson were among his riders. While he helped usher in the signature model era, his retail prowess made him a cornerstone of California's coastal identity. No other 60s shaper and retailer endured like Hansen. His Encinitas landmark has thrived through 6 decades of surfing boom and bust cycles. Metz went on to say, quote, he diversified better than any of us. You could walk into his shop today and you still find skis, snowboards, skateboards, and surfboards. He did it all. He was the real industry leader, and I miss him already.
Yeah, those are great words. And, I worked at Sunset Surfboards, which was directly across the street from Hansen's and Encinitas. And yeah, I mean, Don had skis in there, man. Don knew how to make money, and he also knew how to weather the storms. Because there was, back then, and probably even today, I don't know much about the snow industry, but if there's not a lot of snow in the mountains, all those retailers take a huge hit. And I remember there was a couple of years there where the owner of Sunset Surfboards would be like, man, I'm glad I'm not doing skiing anymore. And Don Hansen somehow just kind of holding on, and going through some rough winters where there was no snow and pulling it off and adapting. And he was a great guy. And that picture there, I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to sit with him and his son Josh in his office and just talk story with him. And he was just a really gregarious guy with plenty of stories and good fun to chat with.
Yeah. True California icon. So
American icon,
cowboy. So you will be missed, Don. I actually recorded an episode with Josh about Hansen surfboards more than 5 years ago, less than 10 years ago. I should probably dig that up out of the archives, maybe share it again.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there and a lot of stuff that people don't know. So it would be fun to bring that back.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, Don Hansen, and condolences to the Hansens family.
Yeah.
Scott, I've got some exciting news coming out of California this week.
Oh my, let's hear it. What's up?
Well, you know that we have national protections for forests, rivers, and reefs, but waves could be next.
Really?
One of California lawmakers is seeking to protect some of the iconic surf spots in California with creating surfing reserves, quote unquote. It's an assembly member from Thousand Oaks. She introduced a bill which, quote, will establish a process of designated state surfing reserves in order to recognize the cultural, historical, economic, and ecological significance of California's waves, surf zones, and their surrounding environments.
I would love for Tijuana sloughs to be on there, man. That's how we're going to clean up that water is tie the economic interest of the local region to the surf spots. And all of a sudden you'll see some politicians moving and shaking. And I was lucky enough I ran into Dempsey Holder is a classic IB guy who was a lifeguard down there way back. I met his son who's like 70. And we got to talking about Tijuana sloughs, and he showed me some pictures of how it breaks and where it breaks. And I mean, that's a spot that I don't think people surf anymore because of the sewage,
Absolutely,
and,
yeah.
I mean, it's a legendary, back in the day, it was one of the prime top spots in California.
Crazy. Yeah, no, the beach, I mean, I don't know if it's still closed today, but it was closed for over 1,000 days straight consecutively.
Yeah.
So years and years.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. But I think that this would be absolutely beneficial for that reason and many others. Now, can you think of any other examples around the globe where countries have applied similar protections?
Yeah, well, Peru.
Boom. Look at you on top of your knowledge.
Yeah. Peru.
How'd you know that?
Because I've been in the surf space for a long time, and it just kind of came to me.
The fact that your brain retains it and can access it on quick notice is pretty impressive.
By the way, I'm glad you brought that up. Yesterday, I drove away from a gas station with the gas pump stuck in my car still.
Did it bust off?
Have you ever done this?
No, I've never done it.
Well, I'm here to raise my hand and say I'm embarrassed that it happened. And my wife was like, "Oh my God, what's going on with you? How did you do that?" Fact of the matter is, I was in a hurry, and I put the pump in. I ran back into my car to put my shoes on, and I started up and left. And so it was more about me being in a hurry than me being, losing my mind, so to speak.
They make them the pumps detachable for that exact reason.
Yeah, it popped off, and I'm going to have to pay the gas station some money for some damage to the very tip of the cap or whatever. But nothing happened to my car, but
That's good.
I did do a little bit of damage to their thing, and so yeah, we figured it out. We got it covered.
Bummer, man. Well, hey, drinkag1.com/surf for your brain power, Scott. There you go.
I need a double. Give me a double.
Honestly, it keeps the neurons, the synapses firing. Drinkag1.com/surf for all foundational nutrition, but also good for your, like I said, mental functioning, cognitive functioning. Well, you were able to pull up the Peru information. So Peru really is the gold standard for this. They passed a national law in the year 2000 specifically to protect waves. It legally recognizes surf breaks as resources that are worth protecting, not just incidental recreation. The law prohibits coastal development that alters swell, sand flow, or bathymetry. It prohibits infrastructure that would degrade the quality of the wave, which is fantastic. And it's actually been applied to iconic waves like Chicama, where we went to and we're going back. So this is probably the closest comparison to what California is attempting. Peru did it decades ago. Yeah, decades ago now, 26 years ago. Now, we know Australia has national surfing reserves, started in Angary in 2007. And these are kind of formally recognized under law, and they do include the surf zone itself. And they're used as kind of national heritage and for land use planning, but it's not the same as Peru, where they're actually preventing things. It's kind of more like just a recognition than it is actually preventing the development in the way that Peru is. So maybe one step down in terms of actual legal action that could be taken. And then additionally, you're probably familiar with the Save the Waves Coalition, which is a nonprofit. In 2009, they actually formed something that they call World Surfing Reserves. And again, this one isn't legally binding. It is just kind of a recognition of great surf spots around the planet that can draw attention to it and maybe collect resources to help protect it. But it's not actually, there's no laws in place to prevent development at these locations. But they designated Malibu in California as one of the World Surfing Reserves, Ericeira, Portugal, Punta de Lobos in Chile, and the Gold Coast of Australia. And again, this kind of international recognition, local stewardship frameworks, but no laws themselves to protect those waves. So there are examples around the world that California can follow, but I think if California does it successfully, it can actually create a blueprint for other people to follow.
Yeah, it's funny. California's so built up and so just so lawyered up and so developed and everything. It almost feels like, okay, let me guess, you're gonna designate Malibu, right? Like Malibu's. There's nothing more we can do to Malibu. I mean, we could certainly preserve it, and I think we should. But I bring this up because there's countries such as Peru, and another one that really pops into my mind that really would need something like this, in my opinion, is Morocco. Morocco has this incredible coastline that's completely undeveloped. It's just like, it's like Baja. It's like California in 1850. It's just insane right point after insane right point for hundreds of miles. This is an area that I could see getting, wrongly developed, if you will, so that the waves get ruined. This is a place that draws, the surf is a massive economic driver there. And I would love to see somehow, some way, Morocco get designated, because those waves and that coastline are just gorgeous, and it's not going to ever be, it needs to stay pristine, but, I know that there's progress, and I understand,
Well, it's just a matter of whether or not the government recognizes the value of surfing in their country. And that's what I always forget about Peru, is how much surfing is steeped, or how much of surfing's origin story is steeped in Peru. And I'm grateful to see that the government recognizes that as well.
Well, and to further that point, it's recognized by the upper middle class and the people that move the needle in Peru. It was recognized in the 1960s by these people. You know what I mean? Like, this wasn't a bunch of vagabond surfers with a bag of weed. These were like like I said, upper middle class, upper class people in Peru, the Peruvians, that recognize surfing as this really cool thing. And so they have this really great head start because of that, as opposed to, me, you, and Lance Carson going, hey, man, save Malibu. We were up against a lot more. Lance Carson and those guys were up against a lot more than the guys in Peru because of the beginnings of it.
Totally. Yeah, Peru, the more I learn about surfing, the more I bow down to Peru.
Bowing down. You and Luke from New Zealand what's this thing called? New Zealand Surf Report or something?
His is called Raglan Surf Report.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. You guys are going to have a blast. Wonder what kind of board he's going to bring. We need to dial him in. Luke.
Well, I'll tell you what he's going to bring. He just did a deal with a brand that Dylan Graves, I think, is involved in called System 101. It's I forget who the surfer is. It's a former. I'm sorry, who the shaper is. It's a shaper / former pro surfer whose name I knew. I can't think of it now. Who rebranded and launched the brand under this System 101 label, and brought on Dylan Graves as a team rider and kind of investor, I think, partner. And then they picked up Luke Cederman too.
Wow, that's really interesting strategy.
Yeah.
They're kind of going, the way of influencer, which is really smart, right? We think, and
An old timer.
but not the brand, but I meant like the type of board that he's going to bring, because we need to dial him in. David, you know how to handle it. Make sure he brings the right board.
Well, I think that the wave is pretty similar to Raglan.
Maybe.
I think he would probably already be on whatever the right board is. Yeah. By the way, the shaper whose name I couldn't think of is Kobe Perkovich in Australia.
Okay.
Another thing, we got an email from a longtime listener who.
Can you hold that thought?
Okay, go.
Okay.
So, California Surf Museum in Oceanside, we got an email from a listener who is a volunteer there, longtime listener who's a volunteer there, and he wanted us to bring attention to their photography competition that they're doing for middle schoolers and high schoolers, which I think is really cool. I mean, look, we've seen surf photography competitions before, but I've never seen one that's specifically aimed at the youth in this way. And this is the 4th annual A.R. Gurrey Jr. Surf Photography Competition. You can go to surfmuseum.org to learn more about it. I will link to it in today's show notes. But basically, the contest has several categories that range from surf action, seascapes, portraits, and others. The deadline to get your entry in is 1 month from now, May 1st, 2026. The award ceremony will be held on May 27th at the California Surf Museum in Oceanside. And the only limitation is that you have to be in California. So any middle schooler or high schooler in California can submit. And they also stipulated that it'd be nice if you're within driving distance to the award ceremony so that if you win, you can come attend. But other than that, if you're into photography or if you have a kid who's into photography, submit. You can win.
Do you know anything about A.R. Gurrey, who their competition is named after?
Not at all.
Okay, so A.R. Gurrey was a famous photographer from Hawaii, and he's the guy that was the first to take water photographs. And he took water shots of Duke Hanamoku. And we recently sold, he put out a book called I think it was called The Surfrider's Guide. Let me see if I can pull it up here. anyway, he put out a book. Sorry, I'm trying to read while I do. And it's called something like the Surfrider's Guide to Hawaii or the Hawaiian Surfrider's Guide or something. The exact title is missing me right now. But this book had probably 8 or 10 or 15 pages in it with his amazing water shots of Duke and of, Diamond Head and all of sort of the Hawaiian stuff from way back when. This is all in the early 1910 to 1930 or something like that.
Crazy.
And we sold this book at auction for like $30-something thousand. It's a highly collectible book, and his photography is highly collectible. And that's who A.R. Gurrey is. So he's basically the first water photographer.
Great. I mean, how I've never learned that information before is wild to me, but that is quite the surf factoid. I'm curious what that water housing looked like.
Well, that's a great point. I'm going to butcher it, so I'm concerned about.
The cameras themselves were massive back then and heavy and complicated. And so whatever he built to house it had to be.
I don't know that it was even a water housing. I think he was shooting from a canoe, is what I believe.
Okay.
Well, it was called the Surfriders of Hawaii. Okay. And these photographs of surf riding are from the negatives of Alfred Gurrey Jr. and some of the results of 3 years' work in surf photography. It necessitated going right out against the incoming surf, right at its height, and meant invariably a swamping of the canoe and soaking all of it. Mr. Gurrey felt amply repaid for his day's outing if at the end of the day he returned with his camera and one unspoiled negative out of the 12. And again, his photography is super famous. Some of the shots you've seen, and the earliest surfing in Hawaii.
That's amazing. He only had 12 opportunities, and also back in those days, the shutter speed was so slow, you had to stay very still. So the idea of doing it in a canoe that is not still, of a surfer who is not still, is insane.
Yeah, let me see if I can show you this real quick. I just took a photo of one of his photos.
Okay. Fascinating, man.
Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can show you guys this or not. I don't know if you can see this. Oops.
Oh yeah, I've seen that photo.
Are you seeing it okay?
Yep, I could see that. I have definitely seen that photo before. Amazing.
That's one of his many. It's one of his many famous ones, but that might be the most famous. Pretty cool because it really shows Duke's style.
Totally. Wow. Incredible stuff. You also were talking about Caity Simmer's board earlier in the show. You also just sent me a photo of that, so I'll pull that image up for anybody who wants to see what that board looks like. That will be available at the California Gold Surf Auction. There it is. Yeah,
Caity Simmer's personal board from her World Championship year 2024, and that board's on the auction block. You can bid on it right now, or and then all of the lots begin closing on Saturday night, April 4th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So get your bids in and have a piece of history, World Championship history.
Also, follow up from earlier in the show, we were uncertain which round you have to make it through for Survival League this year. I went on their website and saw you only have to make it past round 2.
Oh, so really?
So you're only looking to get past that first.
Rio Wada versus Connor O'Leary.
There you go.
Rio Wada looked good. I saw some stuff of him. I'm sure you saw it too, where he's out in just the most hideous, heinous, blown out, disorderly, lacking any sort of order, Bell's Beach, like just huge stormy crap and lumpy wagons, if you will. And he was out there by himself putting in the hard yard, which kind of scares me.
I know. Like I said, it's all scary. I'm going to bring back an old segment today, Duke and Kook. Well, I'm going to bring back the Kook portion.
Okay.
We don't often do it because you just don't want to throw shade.
Yeah.
So I'll throw light shade on this one, but I don't know if you saw Ben Gravy's most recent YouTube video where he gets arrested for attempting to surf into Haiti from the Dominican Republic.
Oh man, that's funny.
Did you see this?
No, I haven't seen this. But
All right, well, I'm just going to play for you a little part of the middle of the video just so you could see what the visuals look like. But basically, Ben Gravy has this, he surfed all 50 states, or I think he attempted to. I don't know if he surfed them all. Yeah. And now he has a goal to surf as many countries as he can. So he was in the Dominican Republic, which, by the way, the island is shared between those two countries for those who don't know the geography. Dominican Republic is part of the island. Haiti's another part of the island. Yeah. So they got, for whatever reason, they weren't able to get into Haiti, but they were able to get into Dominican Republic. So they go up to the border where there is an actual wall and a guard tower with guards with machine guns standing there at the water's edge. And they paddled out in the Dominican Republic, but the goal was to catch a left and surf into Haiti and then come back. Well, they caught the left, and then the armed guards call them in and detain them. And they were pretty hard-nosed about it, but they ultimately decide they're going to take him back to the border crossing area. So they load him up in the truck, take him back to the border crossing area, and let the local police decide what to do. And the local police decide that they pose no real threat, and so they ended up letting him go. But he also let them know that they could lock him up. They had every right to lock them up because they passed into a country without permission and without the proper passports or anything like that. They entered the country. They could be arrested and essentially thrown away the key for an undetermined period of time. So they got a very lucky get out of jail free, literally, card.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It looks like a fun little conflict that they got themselves into.
So the reason why I'm calling this the Kook of the Week is just because what kids do now for virality, for a couple of views, is a little bit insane.
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? Anything for a dopa hit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I guess, David, I don't care one way or the other. Like, I don't really care.
Okay, well, I care.
I'd rather read Dan Brown, and I want you to read Dan Brown, Origins. It's much more interesting. Where did we come from? Where are we going? Where did we come from? Did you know, David, that energy, that all living matter, you and me, any living matter, do you know what it's here for? From a law of physics standpoint?
To propagate the species.
No. We are here to disperse energy. That's what matter does. That's our purpose. You, me, the grass, the trees, the earth, the oceans, it's all here the single purpose, disperse energy.
How do you disperse energy?
You and I? By eating food, by living our life. We take in oxygen and then we disperse. And by the way, the disbursement of the energy is super efficient. Right? Just if you look at all the humans on Earth right now, we're basically just walking dispersers of energy. And that's what nature does. That's what the laws of physics tell us, is that, like, if you look at water, it runs down into the valley for a reason, because that's the best way to disperse the energy. Take a cup of coffee, hot cup of coffee sitting on your kitchen.
Yes.
That hot energy releases. It's dispersing energy and eventually cooling down that energy. The hot energy is going out into the atmosphere of your kitchen.
Well, Ben Gravy was attempting to disperse energy into Haiti. Yes. And that is the relation here to the story. And by the way, he caught a left into Haiti, and that makes 27 countries that he has now surfed. So that's impressive in and of itself.
You know what would be impressive? Surfing Iran. Now I would be impressed. Catch a wave at the Strait of Hormuz right now, and I would be like, okay, this guy's doing something.
Ben Gravy is looking into it, I'm sure, actively, because he has surfed those tanker waves before. So that would be the ultimate viral moment if he could pull that one off.
Yeah.
Go into a war zone. As I think Haiti's kind of an active war zone in and of itself, civil war anyways.
Yeah.
Well, look, that brings us to our must-see moment presented by Trees Wax, and I have got a very unexpected one. Trees Wax, by the way, is petroleum-free surf wax. You save 20% if you go through treeswax.com and use promo code SPIT, and it's guaranteed. If you don't like it, Christian will give you your money back. So my must-see moment, I've said in the past, I don't want to do wave pool clips anymore. Well, after today, I don't want to do
That was just last week you said that. Like, you're already busting your trip.
No, I'm not. This is different. This is not a wave pool clip, but after this week, I'm not going to do soft top clips anymore.
Oh.
So this is a soft top clip, but I think that you may enjoy it. It's Harry Bryant riding a Jerry Lopez soft top. Have you seen this?
I saw this on Pinch My Salt. The guy's
Oh, you did?
Sterling and his, is it his brother-in-law or his
cousin Ryan?
They were talking about this.
Dude, Harry Bryant is absolutely ripping on this thing. Ultimately riding it like a bodyboard, but it's a 8-foot Jerry Lopez soft top. He's doing airs on it. He's getting barreled. His bottom turns are sick. Like he's using the rails. He's using the fins. It's kind of incredible.
You know what? Like that might be what we're doing when we're 80. We're just riding a big old soft top as a belly board. Way easier than a boogie board. That barrel that he just got is legit. And that turn that he did, if I get a barrel that legit and do a turn like that in Nicaragua in 2 weeks, I know.
I'll be psyched.
Agree. I totally agree with that. Like if you and I get a barrel like that and just do one turn, it'll be like, okay, we have success.
And Harry's doing it on a soft top on his belly.
In between sessions on a real board.
on an overhead wave. Look at that bottom turn.
I know, it's insane. If you really watch his body mechanics, like where he moves, watch his turn, what he does with his body.
It's gnarly. And by the way, I didn't know that soft top could bottom turn that aggressively or turn that aggressively. He's surfing it better than I've seen anybody stand up surf it. He's getting more maneuverability out of it.
That's amazing. You guys
right?
Yeah. I'm still a fan of Harry Bryant at Tavarua and that one clip that they put out recently. That was amazing.
We're full-blown Harry Bryant fanboys at this point. And he might be having more fun than anybody. He reminds me of Australian Mason Ho.
Hey, that's a hot take. That's a hot take. Yes,
well, I think he was dating Coco Ho too. I don't know if they still are, but that's another connection point. So anyways, thank you, Harry Bryant. Thank you, Trees Wax, for our must-see moment. And I'll also say Surfrider Foundation. We talk about Surfrider Foundation. You can see I'm wearing their clothing right here. I'm drinking out of their Hydro Flask right here. So go get merch if you want to support the cause. But also, I did a podcast, or I host a podcast for the Surfrider Foundation, and we just published an episode with Rob Machado on Monday. So if you want to hear me and Rob wax on about surfing, and interestingly, his family's origin story, they were early settlers and landowners in Los Angeles. His great-great-great-grandfather traveled north from Mexico to help build the missions. There was a priest from Spain who came to Mexico and started building missions and worked his way into California. So Rob's great-great-great-grandfather came and did that and ended up with 15,000 acres of land in Los Angeles, in what is now Culver City, and beyond, and was one of the early settlers there in Los Angeles. So his family's legacy and origin story in California is fascinating.
Wow, that is very cool. Right on. And
his dad ended up traveling the world a la Dick Metz, like very similar to the Dick Metz pre-Endless Summer story. Rob's dad was kind of doing the same thing, and had discovered surfing in Los Angeles and then would go around the world and surf at these various locations. Was really into skiing as well. So he would ski around the world and ended up meeting Rob's mom at a ski resort somewhere. So really fascinating origin story to learn kind of how Rob became who Rob is.
Yeah. Oh, I look forward to listening to that on the Surfrider pod.
Surfrider podcast. And then also I've been releasing, I mentioned it to you, those PodAloha episodes.
Yeah.
Where Paul Strow interviewing his friends. We released an episode with Skip Fry, Greg Knoll, and then Jerry Lopez recently. And it is really tapping into surf history. When you hear those guys talk, the most subtle things that they reference are just gold. Like little interactions that they talk about with Buffalo or, the Duke himself, and they just give you these little stories that you're like, this is surf history gold straight from the mouth of those who are literally lived it themselves. So I highly recommend listening to those.
Yeah, I really enjoy listening to podcasts that are just slightly above my pay grade, so that I can learn a little bit from some stuff, and maybe there's like, I'll hear something and I'll be like, I don't really know what that means. And I'll Google up and try to figure it out. And I think that's the case with these PodAlohas, is that you're going to hear little things like David just mentioned that make spark some interest in you to delve a little deeper, using Claude or whatever AI you're using to kind of find out some more about it.
I feel like I've heard plenty from Jerry Lopez. And so I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to learn new? I guess I'll listen to another Jerry talking about surfing the pipeline or something. But no, it's like Jerry is a great storyteller. And despite having been interviewed 1 million times, he told new stories and gave new insight.
Jerry really looks up to Paul Stroud. I mean, Paul Stroud was like their uncle, or like their big brother or whatever. You know what I mean?
And Paul Stroud spent a ton of time with Duke.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely.
So it's pure gold for any surf history nerds or anybody just interested in surf history. PodAloha. We're publishing them on Surf Splendor or podcast feed.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got some archival stuff that one day will be kind of gold in and of itself.
Totally.
You especially with the portfolio you're building up. I was just randomly looking, so I don't even know how I came upon it, but some stuff popped up. An interview I did with Chris Wan. Remember Chris Wan?
I did one with him
Drama
too.
with Palos Verdes and Lunada Bay, and
Yep.
yeah, there's some. We've got a lot of stuff. I've got a whole box of tapes from my days at Surfer when I was doing In the Lineup that I keep promising to somehow digitize or get to you somehow. This is get this stuff up. I got to figure it out. I got to invest is what I got to do.
Just time. It's just time.
Yeah, that's
Awesome. Well, anybody who wants to join Luke Cederman and I in Chicama, now's your chance. I have a feeling this will sell out pretty quick, but get a hold of me, hello@surfsplendorpodcast.com, or just get a hold of Waterways directly. And of course, if you can't make that trip, but you want to surf Chicama on your own dates, waterwaystravel.com is how you do it. So we love them.
all right. Well, great show, David. We've said a lot.
One final thing. I booked my accommodation for the Boardroom Show 2026 yesterday. So anybody who wants to come to the Boardroom Show, give them the dates.
Awesome. Good call. Boardroom Show. It's October 10th and 11th, 2026 at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. And this year, honoring icon of foam Maurice Cole. All of this brought to you by US Blanks.
Yeah, love Maurice.
All right, bud. Look, we said a lot. Until next time. Boy, Bell's kicking off today, we believe, later this afternoon if you're here in North America. And until next time, adios and aloha.
Go Crosby Colapinto.